Peepers, thank you so much for tuning into AmysCrypt. Today we're going to be talking about and exploring some of the most haunted and scariest prisons from all around the world. And these places have become very notorious because they have such dark history. They also are said to have a lot of ghosts and in some cases demons. But before we get too far into things, I do want to thank and introduce today's video sponsor. And this is so cool and so fitting because we are talking about haunted prisons in today's video, and this sponsor relates a lot to true crime. So thank you so much to Hunt a Killer. Hunt a Killer is perfect for anyone out there who is true crime obsessed and who wants to get in on the action of solving a case for themselves. Hunt a Killer is an interactive game that thrusts you into solving an ongoing murder mystery investigation. It is one of the fastest growing subscription boxes in the US, with tens of thousands of people already working to solve cases. This will truly bring a twist to your game nights, challenging you to decode ciphers, examine clues, and solve puzzles. It is also perfect for the current lockdown situation as it is delivered right to your door. You'll receive a box filled with documents, evidence, audio recordings, and case files, allowing you to catch a killer. Play alone, with your friends, or even make a date night out of it. Hunt a Killer boxes start at $25, so it is an affordable and interesting experience. I should also mention that Hunt a Killer has over 2,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot, and a portion of the proceeds from every box goes to the Cold Case Foundation. Guys, Jared and I have been playing these Hunt a Killer boxes ourselves, and it has been so much fun. And I gotta tell you, we got really into it and really excited last night because we actually made progress on an 80-year-old cold case that we're currently working on. It's been a lot of fun, and you can just tell the attention to detail and the work that has gone into these boxes. I am also so pleased because if you guys head to Hunt a Killer for yourself and use the discount code AmysCrypt, you'll get 20% off of your first box. I'm going to leave all the details in the links below. So a big thank you again to Hunt a Killer. Thank you so much for sponsoring one of my videos. I think though it is time to dive into our first haunted prison. To kick off this list, we have the very well known and supposedly very haunted Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary. It wasn't until 1933 that Alcatraz was officially named as a federal prison. It had a pretty long life before this, which included the Rock acting as a military fort. Alcatraz soon became known as one of the hardest prisons in the United States. It was a place for the worst of the worst to be kept. These were inmates who were deemed beyond rehabilitation and unable to fit into a normal prison environment. Adding to Alcatraz's reputation was its poor living conditions. Many prisoners there were subjected to starvation and torturous punishments. Add to this the violence, murders, and suicides. Really, it comes as no surprise that there were many escape attempts made. During its 29 operational years, the prison saw 14 escape attempts made by 36 men. Of these, 23 were caught, 6 were shot dead by guards, 2 were confirmed to have drowned, and 5 others were presumed to have drowned, yet are still missing. One of these failed escape attempts escalated into a riot, now known as the Battle of Alcatraz. During this 2-day takeover, many were injured and sadly 2 guards were murdered. Of course, with such an intense history, Alcatraz has managed to accumulate a number of ghost stories. Some of these even date back to when the prison was functioning. One of the spookiest places in Alcatraz is known as D Block. This was where solitary confinement cells were present. Here, prisoners would be kept alone in the quiet and complete darkness of an empty cell. One very disturbing story about D Block took place one night in the 1940s when an unfortunate prisoner was thrown into cell 14D. His behaviour this night was described as erratic and concerned. According to guards, he was complaining that there was an evil entity in the cell with him who had glowing red eyes and was violently attacking him. Guards were quick to dismiss these claims. The prisoner is said to have spent the next few hours screaming in terror before eventually falling silent. The next morning, this man was found dead in his cell with strange marks around his neck that are said to have not been self-inflicted. To this day, cell 14D remains infamous, with many who enter claiming to feel vertigo and citing those same red eyes floating in a black mist. In addition to this, some even claim Al Capone haunts the showers. Another ghost, said to have been murdered in the laundry, still haunts C Block, and there are plenty of other spirits said to roam the prison grounds, including Civil War era soldiers and prisoners. Now guys, Alcatraz is one of my favourite prisons anywhere in the world. I actually used to live in San Francisco. I lived there for a couple of years, and just standing in the bay and looking out at Alcatraz is amazing, but to go over there and visit and experience it is something else. And I gotta tell you, I totally agree, there's a really weird feeling in D Block. Maybe it's just because all of the stories about D Block, but I don't know, that place just feels off. Our next haunted prison on this list is known as the Alcatraz of Costa Rica, so it seemed fitting to talk about this one next. The San Lucas prison lies on a remote island off the tropical coast of Costa Rica and is said to have been a death sentence to many who were sent there. This prison is one of the most formidable on this list for its poor living conditions and the torture methods that were used there. To paint a picture of the conditions here, up to 60 men would be crammed into communal cells at one time. There were also other cells used for solitary confinement that existed underground and were often flooded with water and raw sewage. The San Lucas prison was operational from 1873 through to 1991 and held the country's fiercest criminals, and just like Alcatraz, was strategically built offshore to keep these offenders as far away from civilization as possible. The prison has been abandoned since the early 90s and has been left stained in more than one way from its past. Perhaps one of the most disturbing marks left here are crude artworks painted in human blood across some of the cell walls, a darkly creative artistic medium. Murder, suicide and disease claimed a massive death toll upon the San Luca Island. For this reason, it has become a notorious site for ghost stories. The most prevalent ghost story that is associated with the island prison is that of a murdered nurse. The story goes that an unfortunate nurse was raped and murdered by the inmates on the island. Ever since, her spirit has remained here, trapped. Many visitors have claimed to sight her apparition and even heard the reassuring voice of a woman whisper in their ears. In addition to this nurse, the ghost of a priest is also commonly sighted walking the grounds of the prison. He is thought to have also been murdered by the violent inmates here. Furthermore, there have been many to report the disturbing sounds of men crying out in pain, screams and begging that echo through the empty cells, as well as sightings of shadowy looking figures moving through these same cells late at night. Now guys, out of all of the places on this list, I have to say this was the most difficult to access. This was really, really difficult for us to get out to and visit. I would have loved to have been able to visit in the dead of night and conduct a proper investigation, but I'm still actually kind of proud that we made it out to the island, and I do have full videos on a lot of these locations that are featuring this list, so I'll link them below, because this place, I mean, just the history of it is truly terrible and truly grotesque. So definitely go and check out these videos. This one in particular though, this was a very dark place. Our next destination was once one of the fiercest prisons in Australia, the old Geelong Jail. This building was built between 1849 and 1864 and remained open until 1991. In addition to functioning as a jail, this iconic building was also used by the Australian Army post-World War II as a prison and detention barracks, as well as being used as an industrial school for girls. The old Geelong Jail was a place where many drew their last breaths, while the prison's gallows only claimed the lives of 4 inmates. Murder and illnesses caused a further 500 documented deaths. Many tales of the supernatural have circulated about this penitentiary, and it has gained a reputation as being one of the most haunted places in the country. One of the most prevalent stories of a haunting relates to former guards. Many have claimed to sight what appears to be a guard, still monitoring the now empty hallways of the old Geelong Jail. Others believe there could be something darker haunting various areas of the space, with some even claiming the activity to occur in particular areas to be demonic. Certain cells, the walkways, shower block, morgue and kitchen area are all considered to be haunted by different entities. Visual anomalies have also been commonly reported all throughout the jail. It is believed that many of these lurking inside the dark cells could be former prisoners, with a guard commonly seen around the central staircase and old gallows. Interestingly, Many have also claimed to encounter a young girl within the jail. It is speculated that her energy could be left over from the prison's days as an industrial school for girls. Countless other paranormal experiences have been documented at the old prison, with many strange noises, smells, and even violent attacks occurring. Guys, the old Geelong Jail has been one of my favourite ever paranormal investigations that I've conducted here in my home country of Australia. I actually have a 3-part series on that place, and I feel like we actually caught some pretty interesting evidence. One of the weirdest things that we got was some noises when we were lying on a morgue table. As disturbing as that sounds, that is probably the most intense thing that we experienced at the old Geelong Jail. Again, I'm going to be linking these videos below for you to check out once you're done watching this one. Our list now makes its way back to the United States, to Philadelphia and the notorious Eastern State Penitentiary. This prison's doors opened in 1829 and it remained functional through until 1971. Eastern State was modelled to use the Pennsylvania system or separate system. This was a type of controversial solitary confinement. This solitary confinement was taken very seriously, with sound kept to bare minimum, double-doored cells to prevent further sound, and the hooding of prisoners' heads every time they were required to exit their cells. Although this was all well intended, it did more to harm the psychological state of inmates rather than to help them. You'll find religious ideologies in the design of Eastern State, with their purpose to instill penitence in its prisoners. One of the most famous symbols representing this was the single slitted skylight present in the roof of each cell that was known as the Eye of God. Punishment was also prevalent at Eastern State. Many who misbehaved would be forced to spend time in the underground Klondike or hole, or even worse, face torture methods known as the mad chair or iron gag. With such a dark and disturbing history, it comes as no surprise to learn that many consider this to be one of the most haunted places in the United States. Countless reports of screams, cries, whispers, and footsteps heard within the empty prison exist. There have also been many people to encounter and sight dark, shadowy looking figures within the old jail. Some claim these could be guards, still watching over the now empty prison. One of the most famous ghost stories to circulate about Eastern State relates to the infamous Al Capone, who spent just a short amount of time in a lavish cell at Eastern State. Supposedly, during his time in this cell, Capone complained that he was haunted by the ghost of James Clark, one of the victims of the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Alright guys, so Eastern State Penitentiary, I must admit, is probably one of my favourite prisons in the world, one of the favourite places that I visited anywhere. I love the history and I love the look and I love the feel of this place. Now I have visited before, all those photos are mine, but I did visit many years ago, and that was before AmysCrypt existed, so I wasn't really there to investigate or to film. I don't even think that I owned a camera yet, but this is one of the places that is on my bucket list. This is one of the places I would love to return to and investigate when things are safe to travel again. You guys already know that one of my goals is to make it over to the United States again and do a whole bunch of paranormal investigations over there. So I'm very excited. Let me know in the comments if you're keen to see me investigate Eastern State, because I would just die. I've reserved the top spot on this list for the old Richmond Jail, located in Tasmania, Australia. While this is not the most widely known prison, it is the oldest on this list, and to me personally, the scariest. This jail was built in between 1825 and 1840. It was an early convict era built facility and remains the oldest intact jail in Australia, even predating the notorious Port Arthur. The jail remains largely as it was during its operational years and includes sleeping rooms for the convict chain gangs, a flogging or whipping yard, a cookhouse, holding rooms, and solitary confinement cells that were truly horrible places to spend time. While executions were never performed at this jail, its inmates suffered tremendously in other ways. From the time it opened, the prison was already terribly overcrowded, with some areas filled so densely with prisoners that there was not even sufficient room to sleep. The prison was also a place of work, where chain gangs would be sent out each day to slave away, building stone structures such as the nearby Richmond Bridge. Furthermore, Punishments such as spending time in solitary confinement cells were common, as well as being subjected to flagellations or lashings. Many people have claimed to experience the paranormal within the Richmond Jail, and it is considered to be extremely haunted. One of the most active areas is said to be the men's solitary confinement cells, where people have claimed to hear strange noises, feel cold shivers as they approach, and even meet with something rather dark. The jailer's house is another area thought to be haunted by the families that previously occupied it. A lady in pink has been sighted, and ghost children have been said to run up and down the stairs. It is speculated these children could be that of Randall Young, who was the jailer here during the 1830s. Plenty more activity has been reported all throughout the jail, and it is one of the most interesting places you can visit while in Tasmania, one that I would highly recommend to all. Guys, I'm so excited to share a little bit of the Richmond Jail's history and show you that footage, because I have full episodes coming very soon on that location, and I don't think they will disappoint you. That place was friggin' scary. It's no joke there. I think that it's the scariest prison that I've visited on this list, and I'm just so keen and excited for you all to see these episodes. So please let me know in the comments if you're excited to see them, because I'm working on them. They are coming up quite soon. You can actually talk to us through this device, and we can have a conversation. We would love that.
What the hell was that?
I thought it was behind you.
Jesus, I don't know. This is really weird. No, it's here. It's here. It's...
Again, guys, I just want to thank today's video sponsor, that is Hunt a Killer. If you guys are interested in this product at all, I'm leaving all the details and links to it below. And remember, you can use the discount code AmysCrypt to get a further 20% off of your first box with them. Now, if you guys did enjoy this video though, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. That'll really helps me out. If you want to do any more reading on any of the prisons I've spoken about in this video, you can over on my website, AmysCrypt.com. You guys can also follow me at AmysCrypt. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want more from me, if you want behind the scenes and bonus content, I'm posting a lot of stuff over on my Patreon and my YouTube memberships. I've got links for those below too. Thanks for watching, Crypt Keepers. Until next time.